It turns out that the Chavistas and leftists in Chile are crying. They're panicking over Kast's electoral victory.
Next, I'm going to say something that I know isn't trendy and is kind of controversial. Someone should take Jose Antonio Kast to a doctor, neurologist, or psychiatrist because his pathological lying really worries me.
How curious that a feminist with bangs is the one saying it, right?
What a shame. But what a level of shame. Not just because the right wing won in this country, but the far right one, just like that misinformation one. Do you know who you made win with your ignorant vote? You made Kast win?
You didn't make Pedro win. Obviously, you made Kast win. Who else? It's obvious and logical, but you know what really catches my attention? Do you realize how these kinds of people always tend to belittle others for voting for a political party they don't like? Did you notice? She called the Chilean people ignorant just because they didn't back her awful political views. By the way, this guy thinks he's morally and intellectually superior when in reality, he supports an ideology that has destroyed every country it's been in.
That level of trashiness. The big corporations won with their collusions, the religious fanatics won, but this, kids, isn't useful for seeing what society in Chile is like today. That's what these elections were useful for, to see how people are behaving, and they didn't want to get informed. That really is shameful.
They didn't want to get informed? But what were they going to get informed about when Janet Jara is literally someone who never once dared to condemn the tyrannies of Cuba and Venezuela? She never once condemned those authoritarian regimes that have destroyed the Venezuelan and Cuban people.
How are they going to screw them over? In this day and age, this country's setback will be indescribable. They can't even imagine it. So that's it. Time, as I've always said, will be the only one that will prove us right.
But what is he saying? If time and history have already discredited his awful political ideology, ask yourselves why the left collapsed in Chile after only a few years of Gabriel Boric's government. It wasn't a coincidence.
Take care of yourselves in the times to come. Very, very bad times. Very, very dark times. Where these people will think they have the right to do whatever they want. Take care. Take care of your loved ones. And we just have to watch from the sidelines, because I'm sure at the end of all this, we'll always be right.
No, they're not right. The political ideology of this person, the political ideology of Janet Jara, is completely wrong. It's totally mistaken. It always fails everywhere. And look, with this, I'm not saying that Kast is the perfect president or that he's the best option for Chile. In fact, personally, I don't think he was the best of the candidates, but well, he was a much better option than Janet Jara and the Chavista left, of course.
There are countless reasons not to vote for Kast in Chile. But if you don't care too much about your children's well-being, the health and physical integrity of your teenage children when they rebel, if you don't care too much about the precariousness of the Chilean population that needs the state...
That's the issue. The Chilean population's precariousness and need for state support. False. The Chilean population doesn't need the state needs the Chilean population because politicians leech off the people. They live at the people's expense. I remind people that the government is not capable of generating and producing wealth. They are not capable. Therefore, every time you receive help, a supposed economic support from the state, they're actually giving you the crumbs of what they took from you. That's why there's the famous saying that the government breaks your legs and then gives you crutches. That's how it works. That's the harsh reality. But anyway, let's take a look at a Chilean leftist who lives in New York.
A warm greeting from here, from New York, to all the Chilean community living abroad. This Sunday, December 14th, vote for Janet Jara, the only candidate calling to lift banking secrecy to end fraud, collusion, and corruption. To put an end to corruption in the country, it's for you, for Chile, vote for Jara.
A communist living in the United States. I'm not surprised.
Jara and the left suffered a crushing defeat and Kast won by a wide margin.
I was born in a wicker cradle.
This reflects a strong rejection of communism in Chile and of Boric's failed government. Now pay attention to this. Since voting is mandatory, there was a large number of null and blank votes reaching almost 1 million, which shows a brutal discontent with the entire parasitic political class in general, so that's not a minor detail.
Honestly, I'm not surprised. I think this is global discontent. I think the vast majority of people around the world are fed up with traditional politicians, with career politicians. People already know they manipulate. People already know they lie, and that's why they're fed up. Honestly, I'm not surprised there are so many null votes.
Anyway, communism won't just sit idly by and will keep looking one way or another to stay in power and create instability. Don't forget that freedom must be defended at all times and places, and that a politician in the current governments is no guarantee of anything. We know how corrupt political power operates, and that statists on both the left and right protect one another.
This is very true. And it's one of the biggest problems we've had in politics worldwide. For example, in the United States, before the first Donald Trump or Barack Obama administration, what usually happens is that both Democrats and Republicans did exactly the same thing. They seemed like the same political party, just with a different name and logo. Seriously, they always made the same decisions. And there would be nothing wrong with this if those decisions were for the well-being of the people, if they were to improve the living conditions of the country. There would be nothing wrong if all political parties took a very similar path, because that would make the country move forward, progress. The problem is that they usually do it that way to defend themselves, to protect each other, because practically all of them are tainted, all of them are dirty, all of them are corrupt.
We must not stop being vigilant and defending our freedom and property. In short, stay vigilant at all times. What do you think? Did you expect these results?
I definitely think we all expected this to happen, that this was going to occur. And in fact, this will not only happen in Chile. Colombia has elections next year, and we already know what will happen with Gustavo Petro. I'm telling you right now, in Colombia, the left is going to lose. Almost certainly, I'm absolutely convinced that's going to happen. Gustavo Petro is a Chavista linked to the cartel of the Suns and sanctioned by the United States government. So, just imagine. Honestly, I think I would be surprised if the left actually won in Colombia next year. I really think they're going to lose. It's that simple and straightforward. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if exactly the same thing happened in Brazil, although in Brazil, things seem much more even, much more competitive. Therefore, we'll have to see what ends up happening there.
The great Chilean people have presidential elections today, and sadly, I think Janet Jara is not going to win. And why do I say sadly? Because Jose Antonio Kast, damn, that guy has a very dark history, his family linked to the Nazis. Damn. Well, that guy could become the far-right president, but it's not that I like him, and it's not that I'm against the left. With Janet Jara, it's just that in the last elections, the right got almost 70% among all the right-wing parties, and the left among all the left-wing parties got 30%. So it's almost indisputable, almost certain. There's always a chance Jose Antonio Kast could win, right?
So that's it, Cast 1. Let me know your thoughts. See you later, baby.